was tuning. All my friends shooting for a future.
Hello, my name is Lauren. If you're new here, if you're not new, welcome back. I am a fourth year medical student, just a couple months away from graduating medical school and becoming a doctor. This is the video, guys. We've all been waiting for this. My entire 3.5 years of medical school have led up to this. I'm like nervous to tell you guys, but I'm excited. I feel like we're really good friends and I'm like giving you the biggest life update ever, and I'm not gonna make you wait. I am going to walk you through my mindset of how everything went down, and then I'll answer some questions along the way in that, and then I'll like answer the rest of your questions. Thank you, by the way, for all the questions. I got 15, which is way more than I was expecting. I have hats here. Hopefully you can read them. If you can, I'll like, I don't know, put words on the screen, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe should I like put them closer? Hopefully you can read them. For some reason, this is always how I imagined telling you guys my specialty. I've always imagined this hat situation. I told Andrew that I wanted to do this, and he told me this is how high schoolers announce where they're gonna play sports in college. So we're back in high school all of a sudden, don't know how we got here, but this is always how I imagined doing this, and this is how I wanna do it. So let's get started. And I have my laptop here if you see me like looking down, and I wrote a bunch of notes. I don't want to miss anything. When I started medical school, I thought that I was going to be a surgeon. I was very sure that surgery was my path. Working with your hands, I thought that was going to be like the most rewarding thing that I could do. And specifically, I was interested in plastic surgery, and plastic surgery has reconstructive and cosmetic, and I was interested in cosmetic surgery. I thought that that would be so cool, so like artsy and creative, and I thought I could really help people's self-esteem, all of that. And I was pretty dedicated to this. I started doing plastic surgery research. I started getting like plastic surgery mentors, all of that, because I knew it was really competitive. I learned in first year about something called a differential diagnosis, and that is when someone comes in with symptoms and you have to think in your head all of the different possible diagnoses that these symptoms could be related to. And I thought that that was just really interesting, and it was kind of like a puzzle, and I knew that I wanted to choose a specialty where I would be doing that. And I've never been a cosmetic plastic surgeon, but from what I know, like shadowing experiences and just like what I know about cosmetic plastic surgery, I don't think they do anything with differential diagnoses. So I decided to kind of like change my route and go into third year rotations with an open mind. Really cracking myself up with this. Anyways, I start third year, I'm in my rotation. I'm feeling a bit lost because I don't know what I'm gonna do and what I wanna be, but I did OB-GYN, and I absolutely loved OB-GYN. There's just so many moments of magic, and I talk a lot about that in my wrap up, but anything where a child comes into this world is so magical and so cool, and I thought like nothing could beat this. While I loved the clinical work I was doing, unfortunately I had some really big challenges with OB-GYN, and I had some experiences that actually have been the worst experiences of my entire medical school career. I didn't feel like I fit the personality of OB-GYN, and I don't want to say every obstetrician gynecologist that I met was bad. I definitely had some great ones. I had some attendings that I met along the way that I thought were going to be my mentors, because I thought I was going to be an OB-GYN at the time during that rotation, but I felt like a lot of the bad outweighed the good, unfortunately, with that specialty. I do think, again, clinical wise, it's amazing the work that they do, but I think that OB-GYN is, as a whole, in general, I think they're underpaid, I think they're under-respected, and I think they're also overworked. And I think that that's where some of the, I'll just say like negative vibes were coming from in that specialty. This was also the only ever specialty that I interacted with that looked me in my eyes and told me, do not do this specialty. Do not become an OB-GYN. And that's a red flag, right? Like, you're not gonna walk into a job interview and have all the coworkers tell you, or like half the coworkers tell you, don't work here, it's not a great life, and then like you submit your resume, right? So I was like, okay, maybe this isn't the best idea, and I decided to pivot and let OB-GYN go. Then I had gen surgery and internal medicine left as far as my biggest two interests. These are for sure, always and forever will be my two greatest loves. Specialty wise, these are my Edward and Jacob. Like, these are my two. And choosing between them was the hardest decision I have ever made. And it was a decision that I had to keep making in my head over and over again to make sure I was doing the right thing for myself and making sure, like, I don't know, I was just like going down the path I was meant to go down. I absolutely loved the OR. Again, I thought working with my hands would be super great, and that feeling didn't go away when I was doing general surgery. I also worked with thoracic surgery specifically for 3 weeks, and I decided if I go down the general surgery path, that would probably be the subspecialty that I would want to go into. I did still have some bad experiences in surgery in general. I think there's still some personalities that didn't really fit my personality. However, I think that the good experiences in surgery outweighed the bad, so the personality thing was not gonna deter me from the specialty in the way that it did the specialty that I talked about previously. But the road to thoracic surgery specifically is really long. General surgery residency is 5 years, and then thoracic surgery fellowship after that is 3 years. So that's a really long time. That is 8 years of my life that I was considering dedicating to this specialty. Lifestyle was also a really big concern of mine because while so many surgeons have families and succeed in that route, I was worried about the time commitment because I am someone who I plan on, once I have a family, to like be at all my kids, I mean, maybe not all of them, but like hopefully as many as I can, like their basketball games, and like not miss any big events or big moments in their lives and in my partner's life and like in my other family members' lives. Like, I really want to prioritize family. I do, like, you know, want to focus on my career and have like an amazing career, but I don't want to have to miss anything really if I can help it. Those two things, as far as like the path duration and the lifestyle concerns, were the biggest factors of why I ended up not choosing general surgery. I felt like I really loved it. I felt like I had a passion for it, but I didn't feel like I was passionate enough about it to overcome those obstacles. So I'm going into internal medicine! Oh my god, I'm like so excited to finally tell you this. Let's like get into it, get into why I chose internal medicine. First of all, this is like my love. I know I said Edward and Jacob. I am a Jacob woman. I don't think Bella deserves Jacob, but I am a Jacob person, so this is my Jacob. And internal medicine like absolutely surprised me. For context, if you haven't seen the whole journey, I mean, plastic surgery was like not an official rotation, but general surgery and OB I did before I did internal medicine. So when I started internal medicine, I was like sure I was gonna go into general surgery, and then internal medicine just really surprised me, and I ended up loving this more than anything else. It's also so funny because this was the one specialty out of like the 8 core specialties that you can choose that I would have told you at the beginning of 3rd year, like I probably wouldn't go into it. That's because I did shout out with an internal medicine physician a couple times in outpatient, and I just thought like it was not super exciting. So I was like, yeah, out of all of them, I probably would never choose internal medicine. And then I did the rotation and I did inpatient, and yeah, just the inpatient aspect really blew me away. And then before I get more into like why I chose internal medicine, I did want to answer the question that someone asked me as far as were there any honorable mentions, like before I never talk about another specialty again. 2 other honorable mentions that I at a time thought I was gonna do and that I either like took steps towards by like starting research in them or like trying to find a mentor or things like that was ENT, which is otolaryngology. That's a surgical specialty. It's super competitive too, and I just thought like the work was really cool. And then urology, which is also super competitive specialty, and yeah, I just thought like the surgeries were really cool with that one, but I didn't go down those paths, obviously, but still worth mentioning. What makes internal medicine the specialty for me? I'm reading your guys' questions. And how did I know for sure I wanted to do it? I love that for internal medicine, there's a lot of variety in symptom presentation, diagnoses, treatment plans, as well as like a lot of patients have social needs, so you have to kind of figure that stuff out as well. A lot of patients have family members who are involved in their care. You have to make sure they're in the loop. You have to like address the family members' concerns as well. So there's a lot to balance, and I really like that. I like how complex internal medicine is, and I like how, because there's so much you need to know and you need to do, you have to like have so much knowledge. Like the internal medicine physicians that I met were some of the smartest people I have ever met in my life. Like they just know so much, and I thought that was really inspiring. And like I'm not someone who is like, oh my god, like I don't know, maybe I do like school because I did 4 extra years, didn't I don't know, but I just feel like internal medicine was one of those specialties where I really felt the drive to keep learning. Another reason is the patient population. The age range for internal medicine is 18 and up. I did pediatrics. I decided children weren't for me, which is totally okay. And so I love that age range. And then just like, I don't know, the patients, like I just love them. They come in and there's just a world of things to address. Also at Temple, which is in North Philadelphia, the population is, they have a lot going on and they're considered an underserved population, and that is something that is challenging, but something that I found passion for too. And in all of the residency programs that I interviewed at, they all care for underserved populations as well, and that's something that I want to continue doing. And that's, and the inpatient side of underserved populations specifically, I think is something that really aligns with what I like to do. Yeah, inpatient setting. Inpatient's my vibe. I thought I wouldn't want to go into a hospital every day just because, you know, hospitals like aren't the most fun places sometimes. They're not like the most clean places naturally. People are coming in there and they're sick. So I never thought I would be someone who liked inpatient, but I love it. I love inpatient so much. I couldn't imagine working at like an office every day. I just think the variety of inpatient, you never know what's going to happen when you're in the hospital. You never know like the emergencies that are going to happen, the family members that are going to show up, the resource machine that's going to be down that day. You just never know what's going to happen, and I really like kind of being kept on my toes. And then this one I think is really important because, as I mentioned, this really influenced my other decisions when I decided not to do a specialty. But I love the people in internal medicine, the residents and the attendings. I've never met a bad internist. I have never met a negative one, or just like one who didn't want to support me and help me in my learning and like my journey. And I think that is the type of personality that I want to be around for the rest of my career. I was told that you know that you found your specialty when you can sit with them at lunch, and like when you want to sit with them at lunch. I have had a lot of specialties where like I love everything about that specialty for the most part, but like I wouldn't want to sit with the people in that specialty at lunch because they're not like my vibe. And internal medicine, those people are my people. I will sit with them at lunch. I imagine myself becoming friends with internal medicine residents and physicians because that is the residency I'm going into, and I'm going to be around them all the time. So yeah, I think personality was really important to me, the personality of the specialty. And internal medicine, the personality is it's just right for me. It's just right. And then another thing about internal medicine is it's nice. The residency is only 3 years long, and if I want to stop there and become a hospitalist, which right now is the route that I think I'm going to take, then I can be done training after 3 years. Or if I'm in residency, I really like a subspecialty, I can, after my 3 years of residency, do a fellowship and subspecialize. So when you see like a cardiologist, a GI or hepatologist, nephrology, hem-onc, or hematology oncology, immunology, allergy, what am I missing? Pulmonologists, or like critical care doctors, rheumatology, like all of those are subspecialties within internal medicine, and they have all went through internal medicine residency. So if I wanted to subspecialize further, then I could. That's like the reasons why I chose internal medicine. I'm now going to answer the rest of the questions that I haven't touched on yet. So the first one is, was there a light bulb moment to picking a specialty? Yeah, there was a light bulb moment actually, and it's actually written about in my personal statement. And I thought about like reading that little section to you guys, but I don't know. I decided like maybe that's not something you guys would want to hear. I did have a light bulb moment. I had a patient during my 3rd year internal medicine rotation, and for context, at the time I would only have like 1 or 2 patients in 3rd year, so I had a lot of time on my hands throughout the day So a lot of my patients, I would like really try to get to know them. And this patient in particular, I got to know them very well. I felt like I got very close to them. They came in for a very simple admission, fluid overload, if you're in the medical field. And during their admission, we just found so many serious health problems that they were not aware of. And of course, like those problems were not in the medical record either. We just happened to find a lot of things. And that patient really struggled with that because, you know, they didn't know like how their life had gotten them there basically. So I worked with them through those mental, emotional challenges too. And then they had to end up getting a triple cardiac bypass, which is a very serious open heart surgery. They had their surgery. They were no longer on our internal medicine team. They were now in like the cardiothoracic ICU. And after their surgery, after a couple of days, I went and I visited the patient, and they were so happy to see me, and I was so happy to see them. And the patient was just like in so much pain because they literally had to like crack their chest open to do the surgery. So they were in so much pain, and like I just kind of sat there with them like through that pain because there's nothing I could do for them. I visited this patient on my way out of the hospital that day. So then like after that, I went and left the hospital, and as I was walking out, I just like was very teary-eyed, and I just felt like this patient is like the type of patient I just want to keep helping. The patients that like come in, simple admission, it stays simple. The patients that come in, it's simple, it gets very complicated. Like I just want to be there for those patients. The impact of an internist in a patient's hospitalization is the greatest impact you could ever think of, and I just felt like I wanted to make an impact on the people that come into the hospital, and I wanted to kind of like help them through that as much as I could because it's hard enough being admitted into the hospital. Hopefully that made sense. I promise it's like more eloquent in my personal statement, but that patient, I know their name, I'll never forget their name. They were like a big turning point in when I realized like, okay, internal medicine is for me. Next question, how did you thrive in your sub-internship in terms of your interactions with attendings and residents? I worked my butt off. That's how I thrived. Like, I worked so hard, and I mentioned that in one of those sub-internship videos. I worked so hard. I also was like confident in my decisions. Like everybody knows you're a learner, even if you don't know if the medication you chose or like the plan you chose is the best plan. You have to be confident when you say it. Otherwise, everything just sounds like a question, and like nobody's ever impressed with you. Which is advice that like I heard and advice that I just like carried out. I was also just like always thinking of a plan when a problem came up on like how to solve that problem. And I would always let everyone know what my plan was without being asked, like, hey Lauren, XYZ came up, how do you want to solve it? Like I would see that it happened at the same time or before the other team members would see. And by other team members, I mean like my residents that were supervising me and my attending. And I would just, without being asked, say like, hey, I see this is happening, this is how I want to address it. This is how I want to tell the patient, this is how I want to put the orders in, everything like that. I anticipated the needs of my patients. I anticipated the needs of my team. I just like did everything without asking. And I did everything quickly and efficiently as well. Another thing that I think maybe people don't realize is so valuable is I also am just like a very personal person. I'm not saying I'm like the most social, most outgoing, most extroverted person ever. I'm not. I definitely need to isolate sometimes to recharge. Some of you saw me eat lunch in the car, but when I'm with my team, I just try to be myself. I try to be positive and happy and like bring energy to the team. And I think people really appreciate that when you have a personality and you show your personality. So because of that, regardless of how great my work was, I would be less forgettable than someone who came in and just kept to himself, never spoke about anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you're shy, like that's okay, but you just have to just try to like bring the team up rather than like bring them down because you want people to want to work with you. What was it like to prepare yourself to apply for the specialty, grades, extracurriculars, letter of recs? I brought you a little closer since there's less hats to show. So internal medicine is not a competitive specialty. I didn't have anything like bad on my academic record, like failing like a course or failing step 1 or 2 or something like that. But I also didn't have like all A's or all honors. I did have like a bit of a mix, but like nothing bad or like red flags. For extracurriculars, I did like organization stuff. I did YouTube, which I did put on my application, and that's something that I was asked about in almost every interview that I did, and in between first and second year, like a summer position where I was like mentoring incoming students. I will say though, reflecting back, when you do your residency application, you can list up to 10 experiences. I did find it hard to fill all 10 spots. I did end up filling all 10, but I had to use my gap year job, which was a scribe, which fits the picture, and like I was asked about it. And then I also used a clinical experience that was in my undergrad. So I would have rather had all of my experiences be during medical school than like have to kind of like dip backwards. It's not a big deal, but I just think if I could go back, I would have done even more than I did. So try to keep that in mind. Like, don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's gonna be okay, but try to keep that in mind when you're in like your first year, especially, and like maybe your second year too, of how many longitudinal experiences am I participating in and that I can write about and speak about when the time comes to apply for residency. Research isn't required for internal medicine. I did have 2 research experiences, but not required. If you're gonna apply to like a research heavy residency program, then yeah, you wanna have like a good amount of research, but it's not required for like general internal medicine programs. Aways are also not required, or away rotations, which would take place in your 4th year. Like you would apply to an away in a different program, like could be very far away, could be across the country, also could be like in the same city, but just a different school. And you can apply to like rotate there. And I didn't do any. I would recommend it if there's one specific program that you really want to do and that will guarantee you an interview if you do an away with them, or if there's a specific program that you're really interested in but you are unsure of like what it will be like when you work there, so you just want to kind of rotate there for 4 weeks and see if you would like it. Guys, my camera's gonna overheat and I also need to leave because I'm going to happy hour. So we need to speed this up. Not sure if the specialty you chose aligned with one apart from your home program, but what's the best way to navigate applying to residency from a med school that doesn't have a home program for a particular specialty? Okay, internal medicine is everywhere, so I didn't have this problem. I think this is a great question though. I wouldn't put too much pressure on choosing your medical school based on like what specialty you're interested in, because so many people change, just like I did, like change what they're actually gonna end up going into. But if this does happen to you, then I would do away rotations in your 4th year. I would make connections with people in that specific specialty at places where it's offered, like you need to have outside connections. And then I would also try to find someone who is like a year or 2 above you that wants to go into the same thing, so you can have mentorship, and they can kind of like give you some guidance on the path that they're taking, and then you can just kind of like follow along the same path. There's a lot of things that have already been done in medicine, so like if you're interested in something, reach out to someone who might be able to like help you find someone who's already done that, and then you can like walk in their footsteps type of thing. You don't really have to like set a new path a lot of the times in medicine. Least favorite specialty and why? Okay, these next 2 questions are like the tea. Like this person wanted the tea. Least favorite specialty, I'm not gonna say it again, but the specialty that I had those really bad experiences with, like if I read a practice question or something that is on that specialty, I literally get triggered and I feel anxious, and like I literally have PTSD from that specialty because of how bad some of the things that happened when I was rotating with them were. So take that how you will. I will also say that 2 specialties that I never ever considered and that I could never see myself doing are radiology and pathology. And that's only because they're not patient facing. I went through these 4 years of med school to like talk to my patients. That's not for everyone. I respect those specialties, of course, but like those 2 I never considered because I want to talk to my patients. Where did you apply for residency? The tea. Guys, I love you all and I love this question. But this is classified information. I don't think I could just tell you on the internet like all the places that I applied to. I will say that most internal medicine applicants apply to 30 to 40 programs, and I applied to 37. I applied to all academic programs. None of them were like community. I applied to programs all across the US. I finished my interviews last week and I am like documenting all of that process. So I'm not gonna tell you like how many I did or anything because that's gonna be in a separate video. Last question. Hopefully my camera doesn't overheat. Oh my God, I will literally die and have to finish this video in the car. What is the biggest lesson you've learned through your clinical experiences? I have a couple. So my first thing is use any downtime wisely. Like if you need a second to take a breath fine, do that. But if you don't need a second, like do your practice questions, do your Anki. If you're in third year, if you're in fourth year, like, order those medications, call those consults, like use all your time wisely because you want to be super efficient. And the more you get done in the hospital, the less you have to do outside of the hospital. Another thing, you're not gonna love every second of everything, and that's okay. Sometimes you're gonna be uncomfortable, you're gonna be tired, you're gonna be sad, you're gonna be annoyed, and that's okay. Like feel those things and feel them while you're at the hospital, and then when you leave the hospital, try to let it go. It's easier said than done, but it's a skill you're gonna learn eventually. Second to last thing, be open to the specialty and to the people within the specialty and that you're rotating with. Some specialties you rotate through, you're never, ever gonna do again. Sometimes it's a good thing that you're never gonna do them again, but you also wanna kind of like think of that as a positive, like completely throw yourself into whatever specialty you're rotating on at the time, embrace it. Make sure you give it a full chance to see if you actually like want to do it or don't want to do it. When you rotate with people, like I was always like, oh, I'm not going to be rotating with like my good friends. Like I probably won't have a lot of fun. But I met some really great people that I probably would have never talked to, and they probably would have never talked to me if I didn't rotate with them. So like other medical students, be like really open and personable when you're getting to know new medical students that you're rotating with as well. And the last thing that I want to say, this was the hardest decision of my life so far. As I've mentioned, my next one will be even harder, which will be choosing where I go to residency and like my rank list order. Very hard decision. If you feel like you don't know what you want to do like at any point throughout this journey, that is okay. Like I talked about this specifically in real time in one of my neurology vlogs where I felt so lost and like I just didn't know what I wanted to do and it seemed like other people knew. No! My camera overheated and I don't have time to like wait for it to cool down because I have to leave. But I don't know, like if you feel lost, it's okay. You're gonna end up where you're meant to end up. It'll all work out. And if by some chance you end up not where you want to be, you can always change your mind at any stage. I know that that sounds like insane. People change their minds in third year of medical school, fourth year of medical school, during residency, and even as an attending, people change their minds. I know people who are attendings that are like double board certified because they did 2 residencies because they did one and they were like, actually, I want to go down a different path. So no matter what, you will get there and you will do it on your own journey, in your own time, and that's okay. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I answered all your questions. If you have any more, of course, like leave them down below. If you have anything like specific then and like personal that you don't want to share, you can always DM me. And I did want to say like in the future, if you're also going into internal medicine, like in the next cycle, and I didn't tell you like where I applied to, like all of them, but if you want to reach out to me and say like, hey, I applied to like this program, I just want to know like, did you interview there? Like, how did it go? Like any tips? Feel free to do that. Like one-on-one, I'll give you all the tea. I'm an open book. I just can't put all the tea on the internet. So that is everything, guys. I cannot believe I finally filmed this video and got to tell you. I really hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. And oh my God, look, it's so hot over here. I'm sweating. It's so hot next to this window, but I needed the lighting. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Leave any comments you have down below, any questions. I promise I'll answer them. And subscribe if you haven't already subscribed because we are 2 months from match, 4 months from graduation, and like 5.5 months from residency starting, which is crazy and I never want to say that again, but there's a lot of big things happening on this channel in 2025. So subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye.